Hi, welcome everyone. We're very excited for this conversation to take place. I'm Coraly working for Superblue. Superblue is a new venture which we started last year. It's dedicated to experiential art and to realizing ambitious projects in that field together with artists and architects. And our mission is to bring these projects to a global audience and create a platform for transformative experiences. And we are very excited for this collaboration because it's the first time we have two an artist and an architect actually together. We recently opened our first exhibition space in Miami earlier this year. And Drift is also one of the artists featured in that exhibition. And we are now excited to launch our first project in Europe through this collaboration with Design Miami. And yeah, we have Ralph here. Ralph is one half of Drift. Drift is an artist studio which was founded in 2017 together with Lonneke Gordijn. And since 15 years, the studio has really pushed the boundaries of what art can be and how it can be experienced. And the team has now grown to 64 people. And Drift continued to look into nature and natural processes and rhythms as a source of inspiration, but also as a counterpoint to science fiction, and use a lot of technology to create their work, which often speak of a positive scenario for the future. So I think that's kind of goes to the core of their work, which is also the core of what Synchrony, the installation in Basel, is about.
Thank you very much, Coraly. Hi, everyone. My name is Oliva Sartogo. I joined Superblue as Director of Art and Architecture. And I'm really happy that we're hosting today this conversation between Raf and Sue, because we're working now since a few months on this project for Basel, as Coraly was mentioning. The aim here is to really connect architects and artists on a research point and then develop further projects. And this is one of our first projects that we're presenting. So we're really excited about this Basel first presentation. Sou Fujimoto is a Japanese architect. I've been working with him since 2017. He has developed his practice in Tokyo and Paris. He has two offices, one in Tokyo, one in Paris. Has participated to the Biennale of Venice, won the Lion at the Biennale of Venice, is a well-known architect, developed projects around the world. Always also, there is where I felt a strong connection with Studio Drift, is his relation with nature, and the built environment, and how he integrates nature and human connections in his structures and buildings. We were very much inspired by the project he did for the Serpentine in London, where he created this structure where people could walk through and sit and enjoy the landscape of the Serpentine Park, and at the same time have conversation and yes, develop for the Serpentine program. And so we invited Sue to work with Studio Drift on once Studio Drift was selected by the Basel Fair to create the main space at Kuru, so the ground floor. And we were very happy that Sue was accepting this invitation and developed the structure to enjoy the work of Ralph and Lonneke. So today it's going to be a conversation to really try to connect and explain how you worked and developed this project.
Yes. Hi. So thank you everybody for listening. It's nice to have this conversation and time to connect and talk about why we collaborate and why we think this is you know, a strong symbiont, and the experience that you can expect and everything that is behind. So I think I'll tell a little bit about Shylight to begin with. So we started Shylight back in 2006 after Lonneke and I graduated from the academy, from the design academy in Eindhoven, and we were looking into objects that could simulate an emotion, that something that you could relate to, something that could be you know, have a natural movement, and you know, bring a piece of growing nature, evolving nature into your daily lives. So yeah, we first had this idea, like, could it be, we were more thinking in design terms, could we have something that, you know, that you pull, and then with hand power you could you could simulate, and a light source that could come out of its shell and open up, and then once you don't need it, it could attract. But soon enough we thought, okay, but how cool would it be if we can, you know, motorize it, if we can have something that's yeah, that does that cycle by itself, and that we can program, and that we can have multiples of these that can communicate with each other, and you know, that the one can react, start moving slowly, and it daunts his neighbor to start moving, and you know, and after a while that they maybe, you know, be moving synchrone, and so we started with nothing. I mean, we didn't know anything about motor drivers or electronics at that point. I mean, I mean, very basic, you know, soldering experiences, or I mean, I was building PCBs, electrical circuit boards, when I was a kid, but I mean, it was nothing, you know, this advanced and this programmable, or and it, you know, we came to a lot of challenges. It was, you know, if you think you have to make something move, you have to measure it. You need to know where it is in the computer constantly to, you know, to give it its next impulse, and so and to control everything. So we started like basically cutting these wooden shapes by hand, and took a vacuum cleaner apart, and we started using those parts, the engine, and the you know, the mechanism to transfer the power to the system. You know, once something moves, it's a very and you want light in the end of it, you need a mechanism that the power runs through. So we had all these ideas, but there was nothing, there didn't exist anything that we could use to make that. So we really had to work from scratch, and yeah, so but so we managed actually to make something within a week that actually moved, and but then it broke down after an hour. So I mean, these are always the problems when you work with mechanics and electronics. I mean, you can quite not quite easily, but you can get something done, but then, you know, it has to keep running. So, but the reactions that we had from the first pieces moving were great. I mean, it was exactly what we thought that would happen. I mean, we had this, you know, moving up and down lights that nobody had seen before at that time, because remember, this is 2006, and there was nothing like this ever been done. There were no theater systems that, you know, that could with multiples could move up and down in a graceful way that you could program. So in that sense, we were really the first, and it was actually, I think, the basis of our work, that we realized, okay, if we want to surprise people, if we want to open up their minds to the possibilities of the world that we live in, we have to start developing our own technology. We have to be in that conversation with large tech companies that are doing crazy developments, because being that first, opening their mind, that's exactly when you can surprise somebody and plant an idea and have a conversation about, okay, where's the future going to? How do we use the technologies that are around us to better the society that we live in, instead of breaking it down? We obviously live in a time whereby everything is going so fast in these developments that this conversation is sometimes lacking, and what is obviously a very dangerous thing. Would we still develop social media knowing what we know now? Maybe not. Most likely not. And would we then, at this point, are we willing to have a conversation to shut something like that down? I mean, that's hardly impossible. So being in the right time in these conversations about how do you use technology, what do you do with it, that is something that we find very important and that we always work on. So so get back to this specific piece. For us, it's always very important also, if we have created something with movement and something with something that we can program, then we always want to keep like a natural movement that we can't control. Like in this piece, for example, it's really the fabric that is, once it's falling and it's opening up, it gets this natural quality that you cannot control, you cannot program. It's like the fabric just, in the wind, doing its own thing, like like any other plant in the wind or a flower opening up. The pedestals just one by one, and it's not something that you can exactly program. It is something that you relate to. It's these natural frequencies that draw you actually in. If it was just a very static movement, what we actually had in after the third generation, like making everything very stable and sturdy, we got like this very static movement. I mean, that was also in these conversations with these engineers that we hired and we were working with. So working from that, and then like also these conversations with our partners in this and everything, it was, it has to be more gracious and natural, and that's always been a very large challenge in this. And but luckily, after I think 5 generations, we had it, we really had it locked down, because remember, we had to write our own software, we had to make our own PCBs. There was nothing like Arduino or a Raspberry on the market. We had to really develop that platform, and it takes a long time, but the reactions therefore were not were very overwhelming and were great to achieve. And what is the exciting part of this for this specific installation is that this is exactly how we envisioned it like 15 years ago, but we never had the possibility, the location, the funding to create such a large-scale sculpture. So sorry for my voice, by the way. There's something, I don't know. It's I don't know, more, maybe it's probably definitely not COVID, but there's something going on there. So it was a long time conversation with Eric Chan about how can we use the large space at Basel to create this large scale sculpture that that you can really immerse you in this natural feelings, natural frequencies. And we were also always thinking about, is there a way that we can monitor this reaction that you get from the piece? Is there a way that we can see, once you come into the experience and maybe you're stressed from the art fair, but then you start, relating to the piece and you get into these natural frequencies, is there then, does it actually have a profound reaction on your system? Are you, getting into tune with them? Can we bring you to a different state of mind? And that's also something we've been talking to with a partner that's also on board with this project now, with Mind Maze, measuring brainwaves and seeing how we can how we can use that, and can we have a feedback loop of that back into the piece? Can we use those natural reactions back into the work, so we can get a dialogue between the physical art piece and the viewer experiencing the art. So yeah, that's still a research. So I hope we can bring something like that to this experience. But I guess you'll have to wait and see for that. Yeah, so we were also very delighted to have this conversation with Fujimoto, and it's been, of course, a tremendous honor for him to react on the artwork, and then come up with this beautiful installation as well. What I feel has really a strong added value to the experience. So, but I'll obviously let him talk more about that. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello, I'm Sou Fujimoto, and yeah, it is really great honor to be here today. Yeah, I'd like to introduce myself a little bit. I'm based in Tokyo and Paris, and yeah, I have been doing various types of the architecture project, like this Serpentine Pavilion, or the bus stop in the beautiful countryside, or the cultural facilities, library or music hall, and the housings and the urban projects. So the varieties of the sizes and varieties of the places. But yeah, from the very beginning of my career, I have been interested in the kind of the concept of integrating nature and the architecture together to create our future living environment. Maybe because of my background, I have been growing up in the countryside of Hokkaido. It's playing around in the forest. And then I'm now moved to Tokyo when I was a university student. It's like the opposite situation, super chaotic, artificial environment. And so I have both of them, the beautiful nature and the chaotic, artificial urban situation. And I love both of them. That is why I like to see both of them as equal and try to have the beautiful integrations of both of them to create the richer living environment. And that has been quite important core and heart of my architecture thinking. Even though thinking about the private houses or the larger project, urban project, or project in the countryside, every time, yeah, the nature and artifacts, like how to combine them or how to make the unexpected but beautiful integration has been quite important things. And yeah, for example, the Serpentine Pavilion is like in the middle of a beautiful park in London, creating artificial structures, but it's like a cloud, and it's like a, yeah, the forest of the structures, and people can find their own places as they like. And every time the inside and outside is always like a changing, and order and chaos is always like a melting to each other. So those kind of the in-between situation has been like a quite amazing characteristics of that project. And yeah, actually, like the Serpentine Pavilions, I like to create a place for people to be there together, to meet there together, and creating a place or field for people to make the communications to each other or non-communications, but just be there together and with keeping the diversities of their own. So those kind of the thinking of the place for people has been also very important, as well as the nature and architecture relationships. Now, I like to also talk about the project in the south of France, in Montpellier. It is like a housing with many balconies are sticking out, like looks like a pine cone, or like a kind of a organic, but at the same time it's quite like architectural. And it is like, it has about 100 housing units. And then it is like a place where those many people are living together by these sticking out balconies. They can have the communications to each other, like a soft relationships, like the community or the neighborhood like relationships. So we create the positive relationships between people and people. Those are the another examples to create the place or field for the people. And talking about this project for the Studio Drift, I was really happy and excited to be invited to this project, because I feel we are sharing the same concept, like the beautiful integration of nature and artifacts, and we are sharing the same sensitivity. And I really admire their works so much. So it is really great pleasure to think about like the place for their artworks and a place for the people. And of course, at the same time, I don't like to disturb this beautiful like an installation as it is. So finally, I decided to create like the amphitheater-like place, but not so tall. It's more like a placed on the floor, and providing the seating or gathering experiences for people to enjoy this Shylights or the phenomena of the Shylights. And this is the sketch I drew at the very beginning, which is, I also got an inspiration from this Shylights project, like using the natural materials, and the whole process should be more like a sustainable, or could be like a linked to the natural materials, linked to the method, which is quite like feasible and less energy consumption and something. And finally, we decided to use this timber materials. It's quite like a common materials, and like to make a lot of layers, like repeating the simple units of the timber materials to create those kind of the amphitheater, like it's not benches, but the place for people to sit there on it. And it is like easy to assemble or dismantle, to transport to the other places with a very compact volumes, and then assemble them again to create the same amphitheater in the different places. So it's like the kind of the mobile amphitheater in a sense. And for this place, yeah, we like to keep the freedom of the people to walk around the whole places, to enjoy this artworks and the experience of the movement and interactions between the people and these art pieces. So that's important to provide like some kind of the freedom for people. But at the same time, I like to create kind of the feelings of the space is really like integrated. It's like the theater for the Shylights. It's like they are like a performing in a beautiful way. And then our amphitheater is like celebrating the performances together with the people. And of course, sometimes we can do kind of the events or like a talk or conversations using those part of the seating areas, so that the more different types of the interactive activities by the people could happen. So those are the basic ideas and inspirations for my works celebrating this Shylights. And I try to kind of get the pure inspirations from their works and try to retranslate their philosophy in my own way to make kind of the harmony between our works and this beautiful main installation, the Shylights. And I hope, this time, because of this pandemic, I myself couldn't be there. That's a huge pity. But I hope the whole place has like the nice unity and the harmony between the two works, the Shylights and my amphitheater, to create beautiful interactions and harmony together. And hopefully people could also enjoy it.
Yeah, it will be very exciting to see how the people engage with the space, whether they will, come in, lie down, whether they will climb on the sculpture or sit on it, if they will chat with each other or meditate. I think what's great about this installation is that it, is inviting and it inspires kind of a playful exploration, and it brings people together, but it also leaves a lot of space for autonomy and about individual experience. And I think that kind of unites both of your works in a very, very harmonic way. And you have the Shylights performing in the center, but at the same time you also observe the visitors performing in a way. So that's it's very, I'm very curious to see how people will react to it. I think what's from what both of you were saying, it's interesting the way it's integrated to a space and the way it can also be kind of transported and shown somewhere else. I think, Ralph, that's something that you in your work always consider. It starts with the space, doesn't it? It starts kind of with an idea and how something can really transform a space into a different experience.
Not always. It actually the ideas that we have mostly start from the conversations that I have with my partner Lonneke. It's really this merger of our childhood interests. Mine is like science fiction. Hers is natural processes, and we just start talking about how these two worlds come together, and that is the creation of the work. But we've always done it in a way that it is almost, most of the works are modular. This one not so much, but it is something that you can extend on, that you can react to a space. I think that is indeed very important, because if you're not having a relationship to your environment, then there is no connection, there's no point. Then you can also do something digitally on the screen, but being somewhere physically and activating a space, making looking at how do people react to it, how would they walk through, that is obviously something that we find very important. It also emphasizes the best qualities of the work, so it's also sometimes that we alter a space or look at something and I think, okay, we need to maybe move this or that, or this wall could be great if it would be there. But those are the greater projects that you can do if you have that kind of freedom, obviously. But with this insanely large space, obviously that was not needed, but this was almost so large that it loses its human human size. It's if you have a picture of this space, you don't see a staircase or a human in it, you have no idea what you're looking at. So in that sense, we're also very grateful to work with you about how does the human size fit in that that conversation. And with this beautiful sculpture that he's created, you can actually, without humans even in it, you can understand the energy, the placing of the work, it's a boundary, but it's also opening up a space. It works really well in communication, how and where to experience the work. So I think without it, it would have been, I think it would have felt quite empty, or quite, maybe like too much as a void, like almost, it's almost then too, voids can be very scary, like if you're, if there's this experiment of a space that has like zero sound, and it's like a bunker in a bunker in a bunker, and apparently if you're in that space, you almost lose your mind, because your sensual deprivation actually causes a sense of panic, because you can't relate to your environment. And I think that happens also in very large spaces. So this is, it makes it more intimate, but it doesn't make it small. Does it make sense? But I think that's also obviously the quality of the work of Fujimoto that he achieves. So for me, and that's why it's also very very exciting to have this collaboration.
Yeah, I have also, I think it's interesting to understand on Sou, because you worked a lot with lights, and I think this part we didn't explore today now talking. And I think here it's interesting that also, because Shylights express a life of light. And so you did a project in Milano where also you were exploring light. And so how did you imagine the structure also related to the light? Because I think it's very important, as Ralph was saying, it's the space is so unhuman on a certain point of view, and unnatural. So how can we reconnect with the movements and light within also your projects? So,
well, yeah. Normally, yeah, for architects, the light means the natural light, and natural light is always like a changing. That helps us a lot to, even if you have one, like a box with a one window, but then the whole experience and the whole perception of the space is always changing by the natural light. But of course, yeah, if you use the artificial lights, then we can control, in a sense. That's the different things, and that's the exciting things. And when I did the installation in Milano a few years ago, only by using the light, it's like a spotlight, the cone of the light, and then it was interactive. Each light cone has a sensor, and then when people get in, then the brightness is changing. So it's more like an interactive field of the forest of the lights. And that was like the nice experiences to see how we can, it's not like a controlling, it's more like an unexpected order or unexpected interactive sequences between the people's behaviors and the environment, a lighted environment. And that was like they're really playful in a sense, and quite soft, because the light itself has no physical anything. So that was like, in a sense, kind of a pure environmental experience. And yeah, this time, the one biggest things I really admire in your work of Shylights is, it's like of course it's light, but at the same time, it's really physical material by the softness, but at the same time, it has a geometry. So then it is like quite like a beautiful harmony between this softness and the fragileness, and then the strongness of the geometry. And then because of this movement, the geometry is always like a changing, but at the same time, it has like the sameness in a sense. Then the light and the brightness is changing. So there are a lot of different kind of the contrast and harmony together. in this simple movement and the simple pieces. And now you have many pieces. So the coordination of the different pieces, the movement, creating another types of the contrast and the harmony together. So finally, this is quite simple. It's quite simple, but at the same time, it's quite complex in positive meanings. It's like a natural phenomena itself. So that is why I really, really love your works so much.
Thank you so much. That's very kind. And vice versa. I think we both work with repetitive natural shapes, and you're right. And it's nice. Thank you for pointing that out. That this hand sewn silk fabric that we created to be the blooming part of the mechanism. I mean, it's all attached to rigid mechanical springs, and it's a whole system behind to get that exact movement. But the compartments of how that is sewn, it really is a study that we did on how certain flowers repeat their leaves, and how does the wind capture it optimally, and how can we emphasize that movement through these natural patterns. And there's a lot of familiarity in our work, I see, and I think therefore it's also very exciting. It's also what you're saying, that what we can do with these 40 individuals is, you almost can create amphitheaters or different architectural volleys in that space over the course of the performance. And that is something that now we can do for the first time, because it's such a large number of individuals forming this group. I mean, it's a real shame that we can't meet in person. I mean, we haven't. We have never met in person, right? I mean, it's been interesting.
Yeah. That's very strange. Yeah, but
it's very strange. I mean, we collab in that sense that we have to work remotely without, we know each other's work, but we never had that, personal interaction. I mean, through Zoom, obviously, and unfortunately, I'm also not. It looks like I'm not going to be there because I can't have my I'm not getting an NIE from my government, so I'm stuck in New York, where we're building now a large show in the shed, where we're doing a very exciting piece with again very architectural, with these 6 drifting large-scale concrete blocks that are being that move in space and rotate, and it's like bus-sized concrete blocks that we can control, and we'll have it's a story about an individual breaking free of society, and then after a while making reconnections, but becoming the thing that he's fighting against, and this endless cycle. And it's for me a very personal and profound piece to work on. But I mean, I hardly know how to deal with this. I mean, what we're doing now in Basel is one of the other most exciting things I've ever done. But I can't go, I mean, I think we're both lucky that Lonneke will be there. She got her exemption, so she will be representing Drift, and I think we should also have a conversation so how we can have a person, some representation of you there in some sort of forum, or we were even thinking, okay, can we put holograms of us there, so at least people can relate to us, and I think that's a bit too late for that now, but it's a fascinating, weird time. And I'm very happy and humbled and lucky that it is working, I mean, in this matter. I mean, we still have to see the piece, obviously. So
yeah. But you talked about the new project in New York in sheds that's using the concrete.
Yeah.
So it is quite like the opposite. Shylights is very light and delicate, and the concrete is really heavy. So I'm very curious how you deal with those different, like materiality or heaviness, but at the same time it should be quite like a heavy but something different, probably.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that must be very exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be for us as well. I mean, we in the past we had a couple of shows whereby we had one of these drifters, and now with multiples, you know, the interaction between these individuals is going to be very interesting. For us, working with these, you know, concrete sculptures is more about can you make something lifeless alive? Can you create a personal relationship that um, has human values to something that we consider lifeless? You know, and well, what is there for this value of this material? These very static, rigid individuals that look the same, but there's so much going on the inside. It's a very intricate movement systems, emotions that you don't see or understand on the surface. Obviously, the same, the same that we have as humans. And how do we judge such an object? You know, if something is, you know, standing still and is not moving, is it then therefore we can't relate to it? Is it therefore then less? Less part of our, you know, natural connection? Or when it starts moving, how do we then consider our surroundings? Does it have an impact on us that we feel like we are nature? And I mean, these are questions that we work on. And I mean, obviously in your own practice, you have similar situations, I think, whereby, you know, once you have something that is moving, or you have a certain fabric, you know, maybe even a curtain, you know, moving in the wind within the building, it becomes something else than when it's, when it's this static form. I mean, it isn't something else, but still people relate to it differently. And I think that experiment is very interesting. So yeah, it's a very exciting moment for us, for sure.
Yeah, that sounds really fundamental and exciting. Yeah, because for example, in architecture design, we also have to deal with those kind of the duality or multi characteristics in one things, in a sense. Yeah, sometimes one play space, you feel quite open, but at the same time you feel quite protected. Or we can create the relationships like a connected, but at the same time the separated at the same time. So those kind of how to say, the ranges between black to white or close to the open, all of those kind of the different opposite characteristics could be connected by the gradations, in a sense. And then we can deal the heaviness and the lightness at the same time. And depends on how you react, then different characteristics or different perceptions could happen. Those are I feel, the fundamental aspects of art and the architecture, which is something beyond the things as it is. We can always imagine something behind it, or something deeper than what we see from outside.
Yeah, beautifully said. True. I think also this show here on this location is also very interesting, because, you know, I think we have a similarity in not fitting in within our background, or in our study, or in what we've done. I mean, me personally, I've never felt a designer. I've never considered myself a designer, but always an artist, just expressing myself through medium that I was taught. You know, I mean, I always say we're artists that can actually produce what we think of, because we've been trained in materials, in ways of production, in linking different mechanical structures to each other, developing mechanics, electronics, and all of that. And I see a similarity in your work as well, like the amazing pavilion you've done for the Serpentine, breaking open that conversation, like it's an art piece within a very respected art institution. It becomes something else, and I think that these forms of expression in architecture, design, I mean, it's about time that they are equally respected as paintings or as sculptures. And still I feel this separation between the art fair and the design fair is something that we need to overcome and that we need to break open. And hopefully the work that we're doing here together can create that pathway to those different worlds that I think are completely similar. But the conversation needs to happen, because I think all the influences coming from our practices and what we've been doing in our worlds could have a very profound and interesting influence on what we consider contemporary art. And also, to be honest, in this time and age that we live in, whereby you can decide how you constantly feel as a person and how you can express yourself, how you can name yourself. I think it's also very much time that we can't differentiate anymore between backgrounds of studies, and that once we feel ourselves as an artist, then that we can express ourselves also in that field, and that those doors open up to those possibilities. And I mean, you've been pushing that through your work, and so I think so of us from our field. So I think it's such a cool thing for us now to come together to make this amazing statement.
That's wonderful. Yeah, beyond the boundary.
Yes, it's what you've been doing all your life.
Yeah, we together. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you very much. And I really think that that was the aim that we were really trying to create. It was to have this connection, and as you said, Ralph, not to, I think it's a creative support on both sides, and there is a lot of common values between your practice, and of course it develops in different ways. Also, I think the scope of architecture it's the function is one of the scopes of architecture rather than art, has the metaphysic much stronger, let's say, the metaphysical part. So I think it's interesting to create those links without thinking that one takes away to the other one, or vice versa, or even that it can be a collaboration. I think that's something that we're reestablishing and trying to reconnect with Superblue and our today's conversation.
Yeah.
I think yes.
I think we can open up to questions. I think there was a question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sure.
Hi, should I go first?
Yes.
Hi both. Thank you so much for this conversation. Super insightful from both ends. I kind of wanted to go back to something you guys were mentioning earlier about the fact that you're not even going to be physically there. And so, of course, at what stage in the design process does the idea of site specificity come in versus modularity and adaptability of a design? I guess from an artistic perspective, from such as the Shylights and how those are site specific but also modular, and then also from the Sou Fujimoto structure that is like a bit more functional for the space, but also was designed in response to the space and the artwork.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Well, for me, especially for this time, yeah, of course, I started to think about this specific place and then this specific layout of the Shylights. But at the same time, yeah, it is like almost like the basic fundamental requirements to have like to transport these pieces to the other places, and then not necessarily to be the same, exactly the same, the layout, but creating another different types of the places for other places. So it is like it's not like the site specific versus the modular, but a site specific and modular, and it could be, both of them could be melted together. And I think it is possible to have to think about the modularity, but at the same time always could be adapted to the each specific site. And then always like a slightly or drastically changing how to adapt using the same modularity, but how to adapt to the different uniqueness of the location. So yeah, for me, it is always, it's quite fundamental, yeah, question, but I always like to think about both of them as equal and well melted together. Ralph?
Yes, I'm thinking. I think I'm on I think how you described it is perfect. I think I'm on exactly the same track. That makes a lot of sense. And yeah. I don't think I have something to add to that. It's just it is yeah, exactly as you said.
I think yeah, in case of your work, Shylights, it is quite like amazing, like the potentials to be, because each of them is as a pure modular, but how to lay out it and how to coordinate the whole things could adapt to such a varieties of the things. It could be really wonderful in a really formal place, like a cathedral must be really wonderful, but at the same time, it's quite, if it is adapted to the more casual open spaces, it's also could have the different characteristics and different perceptions. So I felt the concept of the Shylights, it's pure as it is, but at the same time, it could be adapted and it could have the different, like unexpected expressions and impressions, depends on different places. That's the amazing part of that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it would be really cool to have a conversation with you after this. Like, how can we integrate it in different environments? You know, like and pick your mind on that. That'd be interesting. I mean, one thing that we always wanted to do is also have it, you know, integrate with a forest. You know, like that you're walking in this maybe cathedral-like wooden wood forest, whereby, you know, you have these branches, this, you know, closing up the space, and then you can have these cocoons hanging in the trees, and then, you know, just opening up when you're walking underneath. That is something definitely that I'm going to look into at some point. But I mean, for now, this is a very exciting installation, and I think we will have a lot of conversations to come from it. And finally, when we meet in person as well, like, I mean, it would be great to have a drink and brainstorm about these experiences that we can create.
Yeah, the Shylights in the forest must be, it's really wonderful. Yeah, I really love to see it.
Well, so far we have your forest for Basel, at least. We have the amphitheater forest for Basel. Do we have any other questions? Otherwise, I think we can. Anastasia, Juan Martin? No? So thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing the installation and Thank you for taking your time. It's been a great talk, conversation, and I agree it should be continued. And I really look forward to this continuation of this interaction.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
This was so exciting, and we can't wait for Monday for the big reveal in Basel.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very
for your
much.
time.
Hope to see you all soon.